Store Championship Tournament Wave 2, 32 players, 5 rounds and 1 winner. Me, Casual Raccoon. Here are the rewards, obviously winner kit, some Yamato sleeves, and I opened Sanji from my pack. Deck I used in tournament is Red Zoro. Here is a deck list, it's made by one and only the red player from Singapore, Noel Lim. 12 searchers, 4 copies of Dadan, Mummy that will find all your 1-cost children for you. If you have Dawn under Zoro, she can swing with 1 Dawn investment for 5k. 4 copies of Buggy the Clown, always looking for a spotlight, so it only makes sense that he helps you search for your event cards. MVP versus leaders that play a lot of slash characters, like for example Low. 4 copies of Izo, Whitebeard Pirate Searcher. You might ask why Izo instead of Nami? Because with Izo we can find the best red card, 5-cost Marco. 12 2k counters. 4 copies of Makino. If Dadan is Mami, then Makino is our waifu. She can help us guard with 2k counter or take care of our children and buff them. 4 copies of Otama, the best daughter. Takes care of Avengers level threats like it's Tuesday. 4 copies of Jozu. It's good to have searchable 2k counter. Mid-range threats. 4 copies of Zoro. Vanilla stats with rush. Amazing tempo. 4 copies of 5-cost Marco. The best red card in format. 1k counter, 6k power for 5 Dawn, removal on play, and virtually unkillable. This is too much. The only reason we are playing Whitebeard Searcher over Straw Hats. The Blocker. 1 copy of 4-cost Marco. This card is restricted for a reason. It's just too good. Can save us some games against Yellow and Whitebeard. Rest of 1 costs. 2 copies of Magura. Worse Makino, but also a potential attacker next turn after we play him. 3 copies of Gordon. The most flexible card in a deck. Important 3k power reducer. If not lack of counter, we would play 4 copies. 12 events. 1 Radical Beam and 4 guard points. The best red defensive events. Radical is limited for a reason. 4 copies of Fire Fist. Cost efficient removal that we can combo with our power reducers. Very consistent as it's searchable by Izo and Buggy. 2 copies of Diable Jambe. In a meta with so many blockers and wild Rebecca players, you must be prepared to fly over them. 1 copy of Fiery Doll, last card in a deck. Tech choice into Whitebeard and Rebecca matchups. Can be replaced if you find something better. Ratios. I strongly believe that each searcher should have at least 12 targets to play him. As you can see, I sorted the cards to show it better. Buggy, 12 event targets. If Buggy whiffs the search, we are still okay, but if he hits, we are miles ahead. Izo, 14 targets. Highest value cards in our deck, especially 5-cost Marco and Fire Fist. Dadan, 21 targets. If you ever played Zoro or Low, you know that missing Dadan search is the worst feeling ever. You just sit there and hopelessly stare at your opponent. If we are not searching for anything specific, we can go Buggy, Dadan, Izo. But often we will search for something specific. If I'm playing against Low and I don't have Marco or Fire Fist in hand, I will most likely play Izo first, then Buggy or Dadan. Sequencing searchers in correct order is one of the hardest things to do. Always check your hand and trash and think if you need to play a searcher to find something specific or if you can afford missing the search just to have a buddy on board. Game plan and strategy. In most matchups we want to go white with our searchers and play 5-cost Marco on curve. In the later turns, attach 1 Dawn to leader and swing accordingly to pressure our opponent. We want to control the board using unfair advantage like Otama, Gordon to allow our low power characters attack into opponent's threats. However, if their characters are standing, we can always clear them with Fire Fist. Generally, we can treat first 3 turns as a setup without attacking with our characters to force opponent to attack our life and give us resources. Around turn 4 or when we took 2 life cards, we just swing and force them to clear our small characters. These are just the basics to give you an idea. Each game is different, so remember, practice makes perfect. Tips and tricks. Even though character Zoro has rush, sometimes it's better to just play him as vanilla and don't attack. Example, against Katakuri, if we are going first and our only play for freedom is rush Zoro, we don't want to attack with him. 5k attack doesn't put much pressure and opponent most likely gonna clear it with 7k attack thanks to his leader ability. What's even worse, we just gave him different target than our life to attack, so we don't get early resources. Gordon is very flexible card. If you go first, you can play him early to threaten opponent with your 5-don turn. They must consider that you can use Gordon's effect and combo it with 5-cost Marco to remove anything they may play for 4 or 5-don. Additionally, before using Gordon's effect, it's smart to use him as attacker first, especially if you can buff him with Makino or Magura for this sweet 6k attack. Gordon's effect is activate main and cost is just putting him on the bottom of the library, so you can activate it even when he is rested. Think carefully what targets do you want to Fire Fist. We are playing 7 reducers, it means without searching we should see at least 2 in a game. We can use them to reduce high power characters and pressure our opponent with our 1-cost characters attacks. Often it's smart to keep Fire Fist for the blockers or characters that are valuable but our opponent doesn't rest. If your opponent is focusing 5-cost Marco, count how many attacks are coming before you start resurrecting him. Most times it's worth to bring Marco back as he makes our leader essentially 6k power, but if we feel overwhelmed, it's okay to let him go. Accordingly, if opponent has a board that can contest Marco easily, sometimes it's better to keep him standing for a turn and attack opponent's characters on the next one. In the early and mid game, pressure your opponent with a lot of small, low investment attacks. 5k Dadan here, 5k Buggy there, and 6k leader are enough to put early pressure on opponent and force him into some hard decisions. Once they are on 2 life, start pushing 7k attacks. For example, if in late game you have 2 Dadans on board, it's more efficient to attack with one of them for 7k and 7k leader than 5k, 6k and 7k. Reason is that in this way we have one character standing and ready to attack next turn instead of overcommitting and losing our board on opponent's turn. Obviously this is only an example and all depends on enemy's board, cards in hand and life cards, but I hope you get an idea. Because at the end of the day, this is why I made this video, to give you an idea and inspire you to give Zoro a try. It's one of 2 hardest decks to pilot in format, but also the most rewarding one. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, see you in the next video, take it easy.